But Dave, let's move on. Going back to the high side, this has kind of been an ebbs and flow kind of a podcast where we started out on a high with John Moran, then we went down to a low with Nasir Little.
It's true.
And now we're coming back high, catching the high wave on the way out. And what we are doing is we're talking about Jarrett Culver and basically talking about how high his draft stock could be as this year progresses. Because, yet again, going off of one game that happened this past week, he played against Duke, and whenever you go to Duke, that's the measuring stick. How did you go against the three Dukies? And played fairly well. I mean, the Duke players not used to this kind of a game. Like when Zion's leading scorer only had 17. I mean, RJ was 7 of 22. Cam Reddish, only 8 points, made 1 field goal, which was a 3. His other 5 points coming from the line.
Yep.
Culver's line, though, he played 35 minutes, went 9 of 21 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3, finished with 25, 4 assists, 6 rebounds. The only negative, he had 6 turnovers on the day. I'm going to ask you the question first, because I'm not going to throw it to myself, obviously.
You could, but...
How high is Jarrett Culver's stock going to rise this draft season?
I think that he is making the case that he should be a... Probably 8 through 14 range. He's back half of the lottery. He is obviously killing it from 3 this season, shooting 45%. But the most impressive thing about him is his defense, to be honest with you. Like, it's a perfect marriage because Texas Tech plays great defense, and he's part of that. And like you said, the struggles that the Duke players ran into on the outside shooting, perimeter defense is paramount in today's NBA. So Jarrett Culver, a guy with decent size at 6'5", playing the guard position, can get you some boards, can get you some assists. Obviously, the turnovers are a problem, but he's not a primary ball handler. He's definitely one of those guys who's a 2-guard in my mind. Definitely not the guy you want with balls in hand all the time, but he's competent enough to make the right pass in most scenarios. So I think because of his defensive potential, because of that 3-and-D potential, he's probably going to be in the second half of the lottery.
Well, it kind of reminds me of 2 guys that were traded for each other in this past draft. You mentioned 3-and-D.
Yeah.
I just look at Mikal Bridges. Like, what were we talking about and oozing over in last year's draft? That 3-and-D potential. Plus, it's like you mentioned, his defense is what I'm really going to use as a positive note. I was going to say, kind of like someone who got drafted out of Texas Tech last year with Zaire Smith, where we were talking about his defense and how well he plays the defense at the kind of outside the 2-3 position. And
shit, Zaire played 2 through 5 defense.
But what I'm looking at is, so here's where we're going. I know the NBA big board for us is next week.
Yeah.
The last one we had, the 1.0, Brandon didn't have Culver anywhere in the top 25.
Disrespectful.
I had him at 14. In the mock draft that we did on the fast break, Sean had Culver the highest at 15.
Yep.
I had him in the middle at 17. You had him right at 20, I believe.
Yep.
So we were all in that second segment of it. And right now, I feel like with him, where his draft stock is going is we are soon going to be comparing him to I've got 3 other players along with him.
Sure.
It's going to be Nasir, Romeo, Kevin Porter, and then Jarrett. Like, those are the guys.
I feel like you're missing somebody there.
Seku's in there as well.
No, you're missing the guy out of Virginia.
DeAndre Hunter.
DeAndre Hunter.
Like, those are the guys, you can even add those 2 in, that we are now going to compare him to.
Yeah.
And the highest I think he can go is he can make a case for maybe, like, just out of the top 5. Like, that is the highest his draft stock.
That's incredibly high.
I'm talking like he's boomed so much to where he has hit the absolute top of the ceiling, and boom, there's the roof. The ceiling is said roof. Where I see him kind of falling is more of a high being like 8 through 10, low being like end of the lottery. Like, I agree with you. He's not like, I had him just out of the lottery on my big board.
Yep.
He's going to be in the lottery for sure. Maybe even a top 10 when we do it next week. And I feel like because and some of the guys I mentioned, Nasir kind of falling off. Romeo Langford, there's kind of a thing where it's like nobody really, some people love Romeo, some people don't love Romeo.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of a mixed bag with him. Kevin Porter, another one that seems to be rising. Some people love him, some people hate him. Plus, we're going to have your boy from ASU, Dort, who could be another riser, who could be in this conversation sooner rather than later.
He had a bad game last night, but he'll make up for it.
I mean, he went up against the number one team in the country, too.
And they did win.
Got the win. That's the most important thing. But, I mean, the thing with Culver is he can shoot the rock and score.
Yeah.
He can play defense. The only thing that concerns me, the only concern I have, turnovers. Well, that's it.
The thing is, he has something that not a lot of these other guys have, is the potential to create for himself.
Yeah.
He gets a little lost when he starts to dribble, though. Like, I say he has potential
he's not a true point guard.
He's not a point guard. Yeah. God, no. But
true point guard. He's not a point guard.
I stopped you right there. He's not a point guard, but yeah, he has the ability to put the ball down and take it around and, try to play off some picks, try to make some motion happen in that offense. But he very easily gets lost, and he's prone to people stripping him on those, and that leads to these turnovers you're talking about. So I think that the turnovers are maybe a product of the system Texas Tech runs and the dependency on Jarrett Culver to create. But I agree with you. I think the turnovers are a concern, and I'd like to see him just be more confident and get the ball in his hands and take the shot. Like, he's not a catch-and-shoot player by nature, but that's what a lot of people want in the NBA. So I wonder if, because he's got that ability to create, and that puts him in a different class with Porter Jr., where we talk about him being, the James Harden-esque, shot creator, facilitator from the outside. I think those two are the two that I would watch the comparison between, because I like DeAndre Hunter more, but I think that because of the creation, I like to see what Jarrett Culver can do.
The thing, though, that I noticed is he's got 3 games of 5 or more turnovers.
Yeah.
They're all against Duke, Memphis, Southern Cal.
Yep.
Their opponent, Duke is top 2 team in the country.
Yep.
Then you got Memphis, who, they're not as good as Duke, but I mean, Penny Hardaway's got those boys playing, and they take teams tough, take them deep. That was only an 8-point win for the Red Raiders. And then you got Southern Cal, which is, on that lower tier of Power 5, I would say, but they're still a well-coached team and a team that could be I see them as an Alabama, trying they can maybe make the tournament, maybe not. If they do, they're an 8 through 7 in the seeding. But all the other games, 2-1-1, 0-1, 1-3-1. It's only 3 games that he's got these multiple turnovers, 5 or more, but it then puts the extra question on it. How does he do?
When the pressure's on.
Is it when the pressure's on and the teams are a higher caliber? Does he feel I have to create more because the moment is, not even the moment is greater, it's just the opponent I'm going up against is tougher, so I got to create for myself if somebody else gets shut down against a tougher team.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, but you have to look at the positives too. In those games, 3 steals against USC, 2 steals against Memphis, 2 steals against Duke. His defense plays up, and he had a block in all of those games as well, I think. USC, no, he didn't have a block in the USC game, but he did have 2 against Memphis. So his defense lives up to it. He plays up his defense, but the offense, I feel he's overextending himself at times because they ask him to do a lot as if he were a point guard, and he's not. So I think that's just, he's a very good player, and I think the shooting percentages are incredible. The thing that concerns me is 68% from the line. Yes, that honestly is a question. It's not terrible. It's not the super concerning, because 70% is basically the line where you want to be oh, if my guy's going to be a stud shooter, they're above 70% in college. That's just kind of the general rule. So he's hovering right around that point, but I agree. It's turnovers, then it turns into the free throw. As long as he can maintain and continue that, the guy is fire with the ball in his hands, and he notches up, like you said, he plays up defensively. So I think, he falls in that second tier of the lottery.
Well, and it's interesting. The thing that I'm noticing with those 3 games I looked at,
Yeah.
all but the USC game.
Yep.
It was all like, because if you look at the points per game this season, it's Jarrett Culver, and then it's Matt Mooney, who is number 2 on that team with about 10 points a game compared to the 19 for Culver. Against Duke, the latest game, Mooney only had 7 points. So it's one of those where, all right, you're not picking it up. I got to pick it up. And really, you're sitting there going, well, 3 points is just 3 off of his average.
Yep.
Then you look at the same thing in the Memphis game where Mooney only had 8 points, wasn't getting to double digits. Culver getting 20 in that game. The USC game was the only one that was different, where Mooney had 17, like they had other guys with 18 and 17 to Culver's 18, where it felt like, all right, we're all spreading out the scoring, and maybe it was just the tough defense from having a Kevin Porter Jr. on the other side of him. I know Duke, you can just say, well, Ricky, he played against the top 3 players of this draft, plus another first-round caliber talent in Trey Jones. That is 4 right there, and we all talk about Trey Jones with how good his defense has been because he doesn't have to exert himself on offense because he's got the 3 Dukies ahead of him. I guess he's a Dookie too, but the 3 main Dukies in front of him. So I wonder if it's just the matchup is what are we going to see? And I wonder too with Culver in the tournament, because we all use the tournament as kind of, I don't want to say a measuring stick.
Oh, it's a measure. You just say it.
But it's like, this is where usually it's like, okay, we get to see you in that snapshot of what can you do on, okay, I know I'm playing this team a week out. How can you game plan and go against a team you might not be completely familiar against, not on your home floor, usually depending on what seed you are, miles and miles away from where you call home in college right now. I use home because not everyone is from the place they go to college, but I wonder what's going to happen when we get to that point, and if it's going to be like, man, he had a great shooting day, he had a great this, a great that, but he had like 6 or 7 turnovers, or like 5 turnovers.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's one thing you have to watch out for, and that's... Yeah, I don't want to put too much stress on it, but at the same time, like, you have to. Like, it's the most crucial games of the season, and the biggest spotlight's on. Everybody's going to be watching. So, no, I think that I feel like his defense rises, his offense I'm concerned with. Like, that's the thing is, if anything, he's going to struggle because he's going to want to carry the team, ball in his hand too much, which creates those turnovers. Like, I guess it's a bad problem to have when your best player tries to raise his game up, but he's just not good enough ball handling, control-wise.
Completely different to what we've talked about with Ja at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, Ja ball in hand, I don't have a doubt in my mind. Jarrett, great shooter, but the ball, he shouldn't have to run an offense all the time. And, you know, like you said, when his teammates aren't able to live up on offense, he overextends.
Well, I want to ask you this, because these 2 players I feel like are 2 we haven't mentioned that could affect where Culver gets drafted.
Yeah.
The first one I'll throw your way is Sekou Demboya.
Right.
Because he's a guy, all jokes aside, most mock drafts have him going to the Spurs.
Yeah, big surprise.
Like, if the Spurs are in the top 10, Sekou's going to the Spurs. Like,
he's a big, long wing.
We even had it in our mock draft. Oh, he's there for the Spurs? Give him to the Spurs, because the Spurs love international players. But how does he affect Jarrett Culver's draft?
Culver's travels.
Also, you've got, and I'm only saying this because he has been rising, and he had a big game this week against UNC, Keldon Johnson as well. Like, he's another one that I see could be rising at the same time, which could combat Culver and his rise.
And you got him just, I know we mentioned him earlier, but Kevin Porter Jr. with this quad injury is basically out of the conversation. He hasn't played a game in almost a month at this point. So, like, he's falling. And all these other guys are rising. Keldon Johnson just looks like a scorer. Like, that's all he, in my mind, he's a one-dimensional player. He could translate very easily.
Whereas a Culver does add the defense.
Culver has defense,
game.
And that is just invaluable. Same thing, Sekou Demboya. I look at him as someone who can be a two-way player. So I like Sekou more because of his size, but I think Culver shooting, if he can maintain over 45% from 3 in college, holy shit. Like, that translates right away. I could see him going in the NBA and getting minutes for one of these 10 worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
Being able to absolutely contribute at the next level right away.
Right now, just to use Tankathon as the example, New Orleans.
Yeah.
They got him going to the Pelicans.
Yeah.
Like,
100%
could you imagine him with Anthony Davis and like Drew Holiday getting that guard
Drew
opposite of Drew?
Yeah, I say getting a guard next to Drew Holiday would be great.
Think about it this way too. We're talking about his defense and everything. New Orleans was a way better team when they had a defensive guard that they could put next to Drew Holiday, a la Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, no. The problem is that you end up with Drew, who's a better 2 than a 1. and Culver, who's a better 2 than a 1.
Then it's like you're not really solving
you don't have
that
a
one
true
problem.
You don't have a true point guard, but you have 2 guys who can both play the guard position and both can facilitate to some extent. So like that one might be worth it because the lockdown from the guard position, what they did to Dame and CJ, Rajon and Drew Holiday was disgusting. They made Dame disappear in the playoffs. Like he's a ghost of himself, not even existent. So no, that's why if I'm looking at the top of the draft, I'm like, oh, great defense and shoots the 3 consistently, can take the ball in his hands if he has to and try to create for others. That's a guy I would be very interested in.
No, and that's the big thing that, I mean, going a little bit of what we said was a knock to Nasir Little, it's that 3-point percentage. And the thing that I think is even
I don't know
better,
if it's sustainable, but now shooting 45%.
The thing that I like is he's not changing his game too much, where it's not like, okay, I'm going to take more shots, or it's not like I'm going to take less.
Except that Duke game.
He's only, like, on the season, he averaged 3.9 last year. He's at 3.6 attempts this year. So it's not like he's shooting more, shooting less. He's just making more of them per game. And I mean, that's going to bring up the overall average as well. But I mean, every single stat from his freshman year is just higher and higher, to where this is an example of like we're staying in school. Helped, obviously.
Oh my God, yes.
Wasn't going to come out last year, but I mean,
I don't think he wasn't on anyone's radars
Plus,
at the end of last year.
Zaire Smith was draining up all of, like, everything was like, man, Zaire, he's the draft, but oh man, he's got someone nice next to him, like Jarrett Culver.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know
was
Jarrett Culver would be able
like,
to
he's going to be the next
grow that
guy.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, and
he did.
The 3-point percentage, like you said, can he keep 45% up?
As long as he's above 40
season?
by the end of the season, I'm thrilled. I think if he's above 40, he's a solid lock. You mentioned the shot attempts being consistent, with the exception of this Duke game where he really felt it on himself to carry, and that's where he ended up with the 6 turnovers.
And that's where I kind of feel like I just do for my camera, throw the shrug and go, it's Duke.
If you're going to shoot 4 or 9 from 3, I'm not going to complain, you know?
Yeah.
That's not the worst thing in the world.
You just throw the arms up and go, nah, it's Duke. Go on to the next one.
Yeah. I think that talent-wise, he's got what he needs. I think that he'll have the national spotlight enough games because of the tournament, because Texas Tech is playing top-level defense and playing against really great competition. So I think he's pretty much set up to be a lottery pick, barring an injury, or if he starts to take a whole lot more shots at a worse clip. Like, that's the only thing is, if this Duke game is a start of something, and I don't think it is, I'm just saying if this Duke game is a start of, let's have him take way more shots. And, I mean, because look at the game prior to Duke. He was incredibly efficient, 12 of 13 against, I know it was Albany Christian, but 12 of 13, 10 of 10 from 2, 2 of 3 from 3, 4 or 5 from the line, 30 points. Like, I get it. You throttled a terrible team, but, like, that's what we want to see out of you.
And his next game, like I mentioned, will be, Friday, and he's going up against University of Texas, Rio Grande.
Rio Grande.
Yep. Rio Grande Valley. Like, that is going to be just a tough opponent.
Yeah.
The one that I really look at is kind of like, as we go on, will be the true kind of, I'm going to say, comparison that we make of, like, putting the two side by side. And I know on the fast break, we talked about what could potentially be like a versus topic.
Yeah.
One for the future, Jarrett Culver. I almost wanted to put the Culver in there, but Culver against Romeo Langford.
Yeah, Romeo's a guy who looks
not
like
shooting well from 3.
He looks like DeMar DeRozan.
Shooting 21% from 3, Dave.
He look like DeMar DeRozan
on the same amount of attempts that Culver is. Like, you look at the numbers and it's like, he's got about 2 points less per game. Yeah, his turnovers are less per game, but the rebounding about the same. Yeah, Jarrett assists at a little bit of a higher clip, but it's that shooting where it's like, yeah, Romeo's making about 50% from the field, but 21% from 3 and 69% from the free throw line, which is technically better than Jarrett is doing. But it's
1%.
Also the measuring stick that I'll use is Indiana went up against Duke too, and Romeo's stat line, 3 of 15 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 13 points.
The boy choked.
On
the biggest stage.
Whereas Culver, it's like, you turned over the ball a lot, but at least you still
25, 6, 4, 2 steals, and a block.
You had
he played a complete game.
Line. Yeah. And that's the
He was
thing
the best
that
player
I
in the
feel
game.
like,
I'll say that.
I feel like moving forward, like as Culver begins to and continues to kind of rise up,
Yeah.
it will be the debate of who do you like better, Romeo Langford or Jarrett Culver.
Is anyone choosing a guy who can't shoot the three?
No, and that is the one.
I mean,
thing
where do we
have
Romeo in our mocks on the fast break?
We had him top 10 for sure. Sean had him at 8. I had him at 5. You had him at 13.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Down he goes. Further down he'll fall because he can't shoot the three, and he choked in the biggest game he had on his entire schedule.
Yeah.
And I get it. Indiana's not as good of a team as Texas Tech is, but still, when you have the opportunity and the spotlight's on, you have to produce, and he didn't. And that's why I dropped him down to 13.
You know what's absolutely funny?
What's that?
Looking at my big board from the 1.0, and this was yet again like 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
I'm telling you for sure, the guys at 4 and 5 are not going to be at 4 and 5. You
Nasir and Romeo?
Nasir and Romeo. I had Romeo at 4. Huh? I had Nasir at 5 because I'm like, you know what? Maybe Nasir's thing is just a usage thing.
You watch that All-American game, and you're like, Nasir Little's a monster. He's dunking on everybody. He doesn't know how to play basketball. Romeo Langford taking wide open shots, hitting them because guess what? Nobody played defense in that game. So you put them in the actual season, you put them against equal competition or better, you get to see a little bit more about who they really are. And honestly, see, Romeo's not impressing.
I'm looking at my big board, and I don't want to just like, I don't want to kind of blow my load.
No spoilers.
Another one that's probably going to rise, 11, I had Ja, 14, I had Jarrett, and then 17, Rui Hachimura. Like, those are guys that are probably, I don't know where they're going to go, but they're probably going to be higher than they were.
They're all playing well. But I think Jarrett Culver is pretty much, would you say that he...
You said Culver, too.
I said Culver.
Oh, okay. It sounded like Culver.
Nope, I said Culver.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Saying Culver.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't influencing you, Dave.
No, Culver.
Now I'm
keep saying the word Culver.
Now I'm hearing what I want, too.
Yep.
But go on with what you were going to say.
I think that Jarrett is pretty much a lock to go lottery. As long as he doesn't get like a serious injury. It's one of those things where I know guys fluctuate so much in the last month of the year because of the tournament and then because of the off season, because of the workouts for the teams individually. But his skill set, the difference, and you brought up earlier, I do want to tag back a little bit, is you mentioned Mikal Bridges of last year, another non-freshman going into the draft who
we had high.
We had high. We had him going in between like I think it's probably 6 to 8.
I'll look it up.
I think it was between 6 and 8, 6 to 10 range, and the difference is that he is able to be a 2 and a 3 because he was 6'7" with a better wingspan than Jarrett is. But like Jarrett, I'm not too unhappy at 6'5" because I think that like he is the ideal 2 guard. He's what you want in your everybody's looking for their next Klay Thompson-esque player. He's one of those guys who you'd be like, all right, he's in the similar mold. He's a 2 guard with good size who can shoot from the outside. He can create if he has to. Incredibly efficient at times. So does a little bit of everything. I like him.
So looking at Mikal last year, the 1.0,
he bounced a lot.
Sean had him at 5.
Yep.
I had him at 9. Yep. You had him at 7.
Yep.
The 2.0, Sean had him at 10. I had him at 8. You had him at 7. So not much
keeping consistent
between me and you. 3.0, Sean had him at 7. I had him at 8. You had him at 8.
I bumped one.
The 4.0, he was at 6 for Sean and 7 for us.
Yep.
And the live lot I'm not going to do because that's our own thing.
That was a little crazy fun.
We crazed it up. And then the 5.0, Sean had him at 8. I had him at 9. You had him at 8. So me and you were consistent 7 to 9.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at the players who are out there right now, they probably should have been taken 7 to 9.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I mean,
but yeah, skill set. Like we get it. The ceiling wasn't projected as high for Mikal, but Mikal has a better body to him than Jarrett Culver does.
And he was the one person that we knew like from the beginning. We knew what we were going to get.
And I think that Jarrett's going to fall in the same case, which concerns me because I think he should be taken in between, like I said, that 7 to 14 range. But I'm fearing that because people are going to say he's a known thing, you're not going to get too much more of a top end out of him, that he's going to fall in that more likely 10 through, probably 10 through 20 range.
Let's see. Where did exactly? Because Mikal was taken top 10. He was drafted at 10 because
but the swap.
switch.
Yeah.
So really it was what? Where's Zaire? I can't even see Zaire because I haven't 16. So really, what if he was available? The 76ers would have took him at 16 because of that trade. I kind of feel like I'm going to say this and then throw the question to you to end this.
Sure.
I am going to say that percentage-wise, it's about a 99% chance he's a lottery pick. Like, I think it's that easy. Yeah. 99% he's in the top 15.
Sure.
Right now, I'm going to say, and I'm going to be kind of bold with saying this, 75% chance
top 10?
He's a top 10 pick. And I'm saying like 8 to 10 will probably be where he goes. What are you feeling top 10-wise? Because I feel like we're both for sure he's going to be a lottery pick.
I would like to think he'll be a lottery pick.
At
the skills say he should be.
Then give me your percentages. Percentage for lottery, percentage for top 10.
Yeah, I'll give you the 99.999995% that he's a top 15 pick. But I would say that I'm thinking he's going to be 10 through. I know we're splitting hairs. You're saying 8 to 10. I'm going to say 10 through. 13, 10 through 14 range, but it depends a lot on the team there. But yeah, my money's on the 10 to 14 range. I think he's a better player than a lot of people want to give him credit for right now. But this Duke game definitely puts him on the map.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be fun to see. This is the real spot where now going into, because conference starts next week. That's the whole reason why we wanted to do the big board next week is, boom, the start of conference. And here they're off to the races.
Games like crazy.
Here's the question I'm going to ask you live on the podcast before we make this decision.
Yikes.
Do you want me to wrap it up now, or do you want to do a pick segment? I'm going to ask you right now, right here.
Would say let's do picks.
All right. We are going to go into picks. So how I'm going to end this is you guys let us know down below in the comment section what you guys think about Jarrett Culver. How high is he going to rise? And I was going to say, how low is he going to fall? But he ain't going to fall. He's going to rise at this point. Unless there's an injury or something that happens, knock on, the wood, because it's on the board here.
Yep.
Knocking on the wood that nothing happens. But let us know what you guys think down below.